Gut Punched, Alzheimer's and Caregivers. Navigating the insidious illness of Alzheimer's is something nobody asks for. The disease sneaks up on you and your loved one, and it feels like you've been sucker punched in the gut. Then you ask, where do we turn for help? Who do we call? What do we do? These questions and more are what we hope to answer and give you some direction and hope. Now let's join our host, Jeff Edwards.
Greetings and welcome. This is Gut Punched, Alzheimer's and Caregivers, episode 57, or New Frontiers in Hard Truths, Alzheimer's Breakthroughs and the Caregiver's Code. How's everybody doing? Great, I hope. Thanks for joining us. Happy Memorial Day weekend, or week, for those taking advantage of the long holiday. But make sure you pay tribute to those who served and died to keep our country safe. Here's what we have to talk about this week. FDA approves first blood test to detect Alzheimer's. Sitting too much shrinks your brain. And zinc supplementation slows Alzheimer's. Plus, more from Alzheimer's Association's 2025 Alzheimer's Disease Facts and Figures report. We went through that last week, and we have some more information today. And the rules we follow at Gut Punched, you know them, come on. Very simple. 1, you have to take care of yourself, because if something happens to you, who is going to take care of your loved one? Really have to follow that one, if any. Number 2, you can't do it alone. You need help. Find good caregiver groups or network with friends and relatives. 3, make a list of people, friends, relatives, co-workers who have offered to help you in time of need. And then make a list of things you need done, but you can't do yourself because caregiving duties are overwhelming. Use the lists. Start at the top and keep going till you get what you need done. You're going to find it very helpful. And number 4, create a help signal. Identify a cue or phrase to confirm your loved one is comfortable with receiving help, something your loved one can remember, or write it down on an index card or something so they can save it and locate it. It will help put them at ease. Okay, let's get going. Here's something very interesting and probably very helpful. The FDA approves first blood test to detect Alzheimer's, and this was done Friday, May 16th. U.S. health officials on Friday, which was the 16th, endorsed the first blood test that can help diagnose Alzheimer's and identify patients who may benefit from drugs that can modestly slow the memory-destroying disease. The test can aid doctors in determining whether patients' memory problems are due to Alzheimer's or a number of other medical conditions that can cause cognitive difficulties. The Food and Drug Administration cleared it for patients 55 and older who are showing early signs of the disease. More than 7 million people in the U.S. and millions more around the world have Alzheimer's, the most common form of dementia. The new test from Ibo Diagnostics, Inc. identifies a sticky brain plaque known as beta amyloid that is a key marker for Alzheimer's. Now, previously, the only FDA-approved methods for detecting amyloid were invasive tests of spinal fluid or expensive PET scans. The lower costs and convenience of a blood test could also help expand use of 2 new drugs, Leqembi and Kisunla, which have been shown to slightly slow the progression of Alzheimer's by clearing amyloid from the brain. Doctors are required to test patients for the plaque before prescribing the drugs, which require regular IV infusions. And today's clearance is an important step for Alzheimer's disease diagnosis, making it easier and potentially more accessible for U.S. patients earlier in the disease, said Dr. Michelle Tarver of the FDA's Center for Devices. A number of specialty hospitals and laboratories have also developed their own in-house tests for amyloid in recent years. But those tests aren't reviewed by the FDA and generally aren't covered by insurance. Doctors have also little data to judge which tests are reliable and accurate, leading to unregulated marketplace that some have called a Wild West. That was a quote. Several larger diagnostic and drug companies are also developing their own tests for FDA approval, including Roche, Eli Lilly, and C2N Diagnostics. The tests can only be ordered by a doctor and aren't intended for people who don't yet have any symptoms.
We'll be right back to Gut Punched. Alzheimer's and Caregivers.
In the fight against Alzheimer's, now matters more than ever. Because now we have treatments that could change everything. But now is no time to stop. Now we've got momentum, so now we use it. Now we seize the moment. Now we turn the tide. Now we make a difference and make some noise. Now is the time to get up, get out, and join the movement. At the Alzheimer's Association Walk to End Alzheimer's, held in over 600 communities nationwide, and we need you with us. Because now is the time for hope. Join the fight at alz.org/walk.
This is Gut Punched, Alzheimer's and Caregivers.
Are you sitting down? Maybe you don't want to. Because sitting too much shrinks your brain. That's what Lindsay Allison says in her article. More than 1 in 9 Americans aged 65 and older have Alzheimer's disease. It's about 7 million. A new study reveals that increased sedentary behavior, either sitting or lying down, may increase the risk of developing this dreaded disease. Researchers from Vanderbilt University's Memory and Alzheimer's Center found that too much sitting, a modifiable behavior, can cause brain shrinkage in areas related to the risk of developing Alzheimer's disease. According to study finds, sitting time was associated with worse memory and cognitive performance, especially in people with the APOE-E4 gene, which is linked to an increased risk of developing Alzheimer's. Study participants included 404 adults aged 50 and older. They wore activity monitors on their non-dominant wrists that tracked their movements for 7 years. Researchers noticed that those who were the most sedentary, even if they exercised, showed greater brain shrinkage compared to the people who were less sedentary. Study subjects who carried the APOE-E4 gene had significantly greater reduction in total brain matter, frontal lobe volume, and parietal lobe volume compared with those who didn't carry the gene variant. Now, the study was published in Alzheimer's and Dementia, the Journal of Alzheimer's Association, and the authors noted that too much sitting leads to neurodegeneration, particularly for aging adults at genetic risk, but is a risk factor that can be changed. In a statement from Vanderbilt University Medical Center, lead author Marissa Cogniet, assistant professor of neurology at the University of Pittsburgh and former postdoctoral fellow at the Vanderbilt Memory and Alzheimer's Center, said, quote, "Reducing your risk of Alzheimer's disease is not just about working out once a day. Minimizing the time spent sitting, even if you do exercise daily, reduces the likelihood of developing Alzheimer's disease." The researchers added that to keep the brain healthy, it is vital to take breaks from sitting throughout the day and move around to increase overall active time. Now you can sit down. Now here's an interesting article by Dr. David Brownstein, an MD. And he is editor of the Natural Way to Health newsletter and is a board-certified family physician, one of the nation's foremost practitioners of holistic medicine. And in addition to his practice, Dr. Brownstein has lectured internationally to physicians and is the author of more than a dozen very popular books. But I found this interesting. And if you take vitamins or you take a multivitamin or whatever you take, this is called zinc supplementation slows Alzheimer's. For a study of Alzheimer's disease, researchers fed a zinc-sufficient diet to a group of mice 10 times lower in zinc. The scientists reported that the zinc-deficient mice had Alzheimer's-like memory deficits and elevated inflammation. Zinc supplementation was found to lower the inflammatory markers. Now, the authors concluded in the Journal of Neuroscience, this research suggests that zinc status is linked to inflammatory reactivity and may be modified in people to reduce the risk and slow the progression of Alzheimer's disease. Alzheimer's is increasing dramatically. By 2050, it is estimated that 152 million people worldwide will be suffering from the disease. We all know someone who has suffered or who is currently suffering from it. Conventional medicine has utterly failed in the treatment of Alzheimer's, he says. The drugs prescribed for it simply don't work. Alzheimer's disease can be best managed by employing a holistic approach that rectifies nutrient and hormonal deficiencies and lowers the level of toxic substances such as mercury, lead, cadmium, aluminum, arsenic, pesticides, insecticides, and herbicides. Not surprisingly, this study found that zinc deficiency resulted in an increased inflammation in the brain. Zinc is an essential nutrient that we can't live without. In fact, more than 10% of the body's proteins depend on zinc. It's needed for membrane stability and for proper immune system function. Now, zinc is also essential for detoxification of heavy metals and other contaminants. It's important to optimize levels of all micronutrients, including zinc. And he suggests working with a holistic healthcare practitioner who can properly test and recommend treatment for nutrient and hormonal imbalances. Another take on things that may help you out. In our last episode, Just the Facts, ma'am, Just the Facts, we discussed the 2025 Alzheimer's disease facts and figures and gave a whole bunch of statistical information. And there was another part of the report, and it's called a special report, American Perspectives on Early Detection of Alzheimer's Disease in the Era of Treatment. As the number of Americans living with Alzheimer's disease tops over 7 million for the first time, American Perspectives on Early Detection of Alzheimer's Disease in the Era of Treatment finds that Americans are increasingly interested in early detection and treatment. The nationwide survey of more than 1,700 Americans aged 45 and older examined awareness and attitudes about Alzheimer's disease, early detection, and diagnosis, tests used to help diagnose Alzheimer's, and treatments. Currently, the process of getting an Alzheimer's diagnosis can be challenging. Accurate diagnosis can involve complex testing, which can take months to complete. Barriers to accessing healthcare, whether they be logistical issues like work schedules and financial constraints, or other healthcare constraints like the scarcity of specialists and brain imaging equipment, are additional challenges to early detection and timely diagnosis. Yet, the promise of simple, accurate, and accessible diagnostic testing for Alzheimer's may soon be a reality. The latest advancement in Alzheimer's detection is blood-based biomarker tests, which are relatively simple to administer in a doctor's office and are already used to monitor or diagnose other conditions. Experts believe that blood-based biomarker tests could improve the accuracy and speed of diagnosis when used as a complement to other testing, offering a viable path to early Alzheimer's detection and diagnosis. For many, early detection can bring peace of mind, time to plan ahead, agency over decisions, and the opportunity for treatments that slow disease progression. The special report found that Americans want to know if they have Alzheimer's disease and want early access to testing. The vast majority, 99% of Americans, believe that early diagnosis is important. 79% would want to know if they had Alzheimer's disease before experiencing symptoms or symptoms interfere with daily activities. 91% said they would want to take a simple test, such as a blood biomarker test, if it were available. And it's now been approved by the FDA, we know that, although very few are familiar with these tests. Access to early treatment and care is the main reason cited for wanting a simple test. 80% said they would ask to be tested rather than wait for their doctor to suggest testing. Now, Americans want medication to slow the progression of the disease and would accept some risk. 92% would probably or definitely want to take a medication that could slow the progression of the disease following an Alzheimer's diagnosis. 58% said they would accept moderate to very high levels of risk with taking medication to slow the progression of Alzheimer's disease in the early stages. And Americans are optimistic about new treatments to slow or prevent Alzheimer's disease and are interested in helping advance science by participating in research. 81% believe that new treatments to stop the progression of Alzheimer's will emerge in the next decade. 66% believe that new treatments to prevent the disease will be available soon. And if diagnosed with Alzheimer's disease, 83% would be willing to participate in a clinical trial for the treatment to help slow or cure the disease. And 48% cited the ability to participate in clinical trials as a reason for wanting Alzheimer's testing. However, Americans are concerned about Alzheimer's testing and how it could affect future care. 44% worry that insurance will not cover future care and treatment following testing. 41% are concerned about test accuracy. Other concerns include the cost of testing and losing confidence in abilities or not being allowed to do certain activities, such as driving. The special report highlights several key efforts to improve early detection, diagnosis, and treatment for more Americans, including continuing research to discover, validate, and advance biomarker testing so that they can be widely used in clinical settings to detect and diagnose Alzheimer's and other dementias at the earliest stages. Creating clinical practice guidelines to keep pace with rapidly evolving science, new evidence, and the experience of healthcare professionals. Improving conversations among patients, caregivers, and clinicians about testing, diagnosis, and treatment. Addressing potential ethical concerns of early detection by making sure patients understand testing and ensuring test results are shared by a physician who can provide context to avoid misinterpretation or undue emotional distress. Advocating for laws and policies that require insurance coverage of tests. This will help speed up diagnosis, provide faster access to treatment that slow disease progression, and support better care planning. And then leveraging public health efforts to promote the importance of early detection and diagnosis through awareness campaigns and provider education. So there's a lot of interest from a lot of people about what's going on with Alzheimer's, its cure, and how to take care of it. And something that we want to bring up is we hear about cuts, possible cuts. I can't believe everything I hear. I don't. But ending Alzheimer's is possible, and Congress can make it happen. Join us and help make Alzheimer's a national priority. Do your part. Thank you. I hope you enjoyed and learned some things with the information we provided this week. We're looking for caregivers who would like to share their story, the good and the bad. And maybe you have a victory you'd like to share or tell us about. We'll call it Gut Punch, Stories from the Front Lines of Caregiving. Reach out to us. Send us an email at gutpunchedac@outlook.com, and we'll follow up. We'd also like to know if there are specific topics you'd like to hear about. You can email them to us also. And another thing, we will be beginning a Gut Punched Alzheimer's and Caregivers group on Facebook, so be on the lookout for that. I'll keep you posted. The Alzheimer's Association is just a phone call away. Their toll-free hotline at 1-800-272-3900. 1-800-272-3900. Dubin Center located at dubincenter.com. And for more information on the guide, now it's going to be easier for you probably just to Google it, Edge it, or DuckDuckGo it. It's a great program. Our website is gutpunch.com. And by the way, we've added a few more books and other resources to the website, so check it out. And the email address is gutpunchedac@outlook.com, or to me, jeff@gutpunched.com. Help us grow and share this podcast with others who may need information and resources. There is help and hope out there for everyone. You just must know where and how to find it, and that's why we're here. You're not alone. Thanks for joining us, and please come back again. God bless.
This has been Gut Punched, Alzheimer's and Caregivers, with your host, Jeff Edwards. Don't forget to hit that like button and subscribe to us on all the platforms like Spotify, Apple, Pandora, and more. If you have a question or want to get in touch, our email is gutpunchedac@outlook.com.